Good evening, everyone. You're listening to the Voices of Change on Intellectual Radio, and I'm your host, Janice. And you see these two beautiful people next to me? No, they're not my co-host, but it's my Glenn Murray.
Good evening.
And also we have a special guest, Miss Keisha Rose.
Hello.
Now, both of these are entrepreneurs extraordinaire, so we're going to talk to both of them. They have a story to tell. This is Glenn's show. We understand that. And I begged Keisha Rose to get on it. Just please help me get on it because she would know more probing questions, perhaps. So we're going to go with that. Got to give a shout out to her partner, being GV Entertainment, who finally has something that he's going to be giving in the fall. I think it's called Reverend David and Sister Bathsheba, and I could imagine what that's going to be about. Also, Oda Enterprises out of Indianapolis, and of course, Great Tax Service. Yeah, it's out of tax season, but some people still need to get that done, so I don't want you to forget that. We're going to dedicate this whole show to Glenn. So we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to come back and read this long, extensive bio, and then start the questions. We'll be right back.
Feed your brain.
Yes.
Intellectual. Feed your brain.
What about my love? Seems you have forgotten love. I do believe that something went wrong somewhere. What about my feelings? Do they mean anything at all? You got me so in love, I'm too blind to see. And that you got my love, now you wanna put me down. And that you got my love, got me standing on shaky ground. What about it, baby? What about the days and the night we spent? What about the love we made so sweet? Are you sure you wanna live? Think it over, baby. Girl,
For those just tuning in, you're listening to the Voices of Change on Intellectual Radio, and next to me again is Murray and Keisha Rose. This is Glenn Murray's day here on Voices of Change, and I'm going to start out by reading this long bio. Glenn Murray is a founder of 220 Communications, parent company to 220 Publishing and Food, Wine, and Spirit Ventures. He has held strategic positions in the top U.S. companies, including General Electric, Leo Burnett, and Discover. 220 started as an events company and expanded to include the following divisions: publishing, experimental marketing, consulting, and music distribution. 220 Publishing has produced over 50 titles under the 220 Publishing imprint in its 9 years of existence, as well as titles under its private label publishing program. Mr. Murray has created promotional campaigns for the arts, film, music, and culinary events. He led viral social media campaigns that have generated over 1 million impressions. Over the years, 220 Communication Marketing has expanded, include promotions and partnerships in Chicago, Detroit, Memphis, Dallas, Atlanta, and Milwaukee. The company supports a number of charities, including Search for Water, One Hope United, South Central Community Services, Gilda's Club, and a host of others. Through fundraising events and in-kind donations, he created the popular Food and Wine Crawl Chicago event, and that expanded to 5 cities. He has blogged for the NBC Chicago Street Team and has contributed articles to 360 Magazine and currently writes a blog titled Stop, Look, and Listen. I have to ask him about that for ChicagoNow.com. An author, he has a contributor to the Entrepreneur Within You book series and wrote the book marketing guide, You Wrote It, Now Go Sell It, which is his debut solo title. He spent a year as an on air personality at WBCP in Champaign, Illinois. He was a contributor to the screenplay Love Miscarriage and has written a documentary titled Praise and Worship. He is overseeing the adaptation of 3 of the titles he's published to screenplay. He is contributing to several anthologies scheduled for 2020 release, including Perspectives, Father and Son, co-written with his father, and Lessons for the Little Girl. Wow.
I fell asleep while you were reading that.
It wasn't
Sorry.
that
I was
long.
like,
I had one time that was like 2.5 pages.
really? I was like getting embarrassed. I'm like, okay, is this just the only page? Let's
Oh
make
my
sure. I
yes.
was just making sure.
And you really shouldn't be embarrassed. I mean, this is there was normally I can strike things, but everything was so relevant, and it just kind of told pieces of your life, and hopefully I'll ask questions with other pieces, and hopefully Miss Rose is going to help me with the other ones. And while she's here,
No comment.
we can't, I also have to let her tell us briefly just something about her, not only her beauty and her elegance, but tell us something about your background and tell us something about what you do.
I am an actress, model, producer, writer, and director.
You're an actress?
I am.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I am. I'm right now currently starring Meet Karma, which
Okay.
is a series right now. We're on season 2. Season 1 is in editing right now. I just finished Sisterhood, which is in Atlanta. That's a series there. And I've done many, many others.
I didn't. You didn't tell me she was an actress.
See?
Oh, sorry.
I,
My bad.
I also co-own the I Am lip line.
Yes, and I've worn it. I've had it. Remember when I was
thank
wearing
you
that beautiful
so
red
much.
that I ran out of?
Yeah,
I guess I got to purchase it
it is
now.
I Am Karma that you have. That
That's
is
right.
the red one. So yes, and we just started our brand new baby, G Rose Productions.
G Rose.
Yep.
That is our production
Our
company.
production company.
It's called G Rose.
G Rose.
G Rose.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm the G, she's the Rose.
Oh,
Yes.
I like that. My mind was going G-Ro, Negro. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
See why? Okay, I'm going to behave. I'm going to behave. I'm sorry. I just met her. That's not. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right, this has been fun already. We got to end this interview so soon.
I know. So that's what we're up to. We're getting ready to direct and co-direct our first show off of G Rose Productions, and that is
Making Love Better
Together.
Yeah, it's
Really?
a talk
Yes.
variety show with Yanni Brown, one of my
Yes.
authors.
Really?
She's actually my first
Yes.
author, and her new book, Making Love Better Together, is coming out. So we're actually doing a show of the same name.
We go live in September.
Yep.
So
we're
our
looking
very
forward
On
to
what
that.
platform?
production.
What platform will you be on when you go live?
Oh my goodness.
So we're working with Indie TV.
Great.
Yeah, so we know it's going to show there, and then we'll explore other avenues because this is very new for me and kind of new for Keisha, but at least she's done it before, so she's going to keep me from messing it up.
Wow.
So we'll see what happens after that, but I thought it would be a great idea to launch her. She's such a personality, and just is really, really good with people and in that arena.
Mm-hmm.
So we really want to use her to the best of her abilities.
Wow.
So yes, our first season.
I'm impressed. I
excited.
didn't know I was getting all this. Did you guys hear that? Did everyone hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with the questions. I'm going to start with just some information questions. And Ms.
Okay.
Rose, if you want to chime in and add something or ask us something.
It's no comment, whatever she asked me. Just letting her know early. I'm just playing with her.
This is going to be an easy one. This is just an icebreaker.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I want you to describe yourself to the listening audience in 3 words.
In 3 words.
3 words. Describe.
After reading this, do you want me to actually narrow something down to 3 words? Really?
Mm-hmm. See how well you
Determined.
brag on yourself. Okay.
Yeah, I don't brag on myself really well. Determined, kind, and driven. And determined and driven can be very different.
Mhm.
Determined means you're aspirational and you have goals.
Mhm.
Driven means you'll do whatever it takes to get to those goals.
Mhm.
So I think those are 3 good words to describe me.
That was good. That was good. Normally when people do that, they always, that was very good. Where do you get your entrepreneurial spirit? Are your parents entrepreneurs?
Yes, my mother and my stepfather and my father,
Oh.
to an extent, have all started their own businesses in some way, shape, or form over the last 30, 40 years. So my mom, my late mother, actually worked with my stepdad on an art business, which started my first business. I was kind of an offshoot of that. So I had started an art business called Creations with a K. Which was an art marketing company. So we took in independent artists and I created a website and helped them sell their works and also created events around that. So that was the forerunner of 220 Communications. So before pre-220, I like to call it, there was Creations. And Creations actually turned into 220, which turned into publishing. And there's a whole the genealogy of everything I'm doing started with Creations.
How did you decide to leave some of those big Fortune, some of them are 100 companies, GE,
right,
and do this? Well, that was a big leap.
I stayed working. I kept working. So I was an employedpreneur.
Okay, because some people quit. They just let it go and they...
Yeah, I've never been that person. And I've had people challenge me about that over time. But I'm like, I have I have many goals, but like ComEd just doesn't accept your ambition as payment. Neither does NICOR and rent, mortgage. Wells Fargo really doesn't. They only take money. I'm sure of that. And I had to talk with somebody about that because I got challenged maybe about 8 years ago. Somebody was working with me and they worked on their own and they were like, "Well, you're not committed." And I'm like, my commitment doesn't have anything to do with how many jobs I work. It's how much I work. Because I may work 8 hours in the daytime for somebody else, but you don't see what I do with the other hours that are left in that day. There's a lot you can do and there's a lot to get done. I don't know that having a job is something that's a detriment all the time. I see people talk about that and it's not a statement on how you jump into something.
Right. And it pays the bills.
And it pays the bills, by the way.
Yeah,
exactly. Because of what you're doing is you're creating another issue for yourself. Like I'm going to jump in, but I have no business plan, no real idea of how I'm going to make money and no strat plan. No, how am I going to look at this over the next 5 years and what am I going to do? And, what if this goes wrong? What's the plan B?
Right.
So you really have to understand that before people talk about sacrifice and jumping in,
Yeah.
It's not noble to not have lights on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, most of them do it prematurely where they just quit their job.
Yeah, there's a lot of people jumping out there prematurely, thinking that they can't do both or not really willing to do both or not really seeing the big picture. And I think you really need to look at that holistically. And corporate America really taught me that. Corporate America really is about planning, strategizing, forward thinking, future proofing your business, things like that. So I learned a lot of that from working in corporate America. So I took everything from corporate America. I mean, GE is one of the best companies in the world for just preparing you to work on your own.
It absolutely
really is. Yeah, they give you.
I did a stint there too. I loved it. It really did.
Oh, it was the best. I mean, I was like 24 when I worked there, and it was amazing. All the things I learned, and you learn from people coming from the best business schools, and from it's the best and the brightest, and that's what you're told when you walk in the door.
That you're the best.
Sink
that's right.
or swim,
that's
but
right.
you're among the best and the brightest. This is one of the best companies in America, and that's what I was told at 24. Before I even had a degree, and you going into that and the intimidation factor, and you think about that. But I soaked so much in, and the lessons I learned back then, 20 some years ago, I still use today.
Okay, thank you. And I have to, he mentioned one of his 3 things was that he was kind. And when he came here, I have to tell you guys this. When he came, normally I have guests come and we're really glad to see them. But when they came, they bought gifts. I had a real tall black bag, Look, and I got books. This book is, you wrote it. Now go sell it. We're going to talk about that. This one is Smooth with a Twist.
Yeah, that's a book that was written by my mom. So it's a book of short stories. Some are biblically based. I love the artwork. They have really surprise endings, and it's really an interesting take on some stories. So she actually took a literary view at some Bible stories. So it's really interesting. Yeah. Very interesting.
And I have another one.
Yep.
And it's called Break the Box.
The Box. Yep. That's by Dee Stokes, my sister.
Really?
Yep.
She's
one of my authors.
Or your
sister.
Okay.
Sister.
Okay.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yeah. And then that's The Entrepreneur Within You. I actually wrote a chapter on business relationships. So that's a great anthology. Some great writers in that book.
Really?
Yeah, it's a great anthology on business. Covers a little bit of everything, every aspect of business. So it's a great kind of primer for someone interested in going into business for themselves.
So the kindness factor kicked in, and I got gifts, so they're coming back, right?
Let that be a lesson to all you future guests. Bring gifts. Remember
And he's bought
that.
a gift before. Matter of fact, her
Yes.
lipstick,
Yep.
Yes.
which is absolutely beautiful. Oh,
Thank you
gosh.
so much.
And it
We are
lasted-
coming out with new colors this fall.
Oh yeah, with fall, yeah.
Yes, we are. So
Do you just do the lipstick? Do you do any other?
we are actually getting ready to do candles.
Oh,
And breaking news, we're getting ready to do the I Am charm bracelets.
oh, nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Jeez.
And then we're going to go into the matte lipsticks
Okay.
and the lip liner.
Oh, good.
And then we'll see what 2020 brings us.
I
Who knows?
just advertise those since I can't really be a spokesmodel for them. Maybe the bracelets.
He
but-
co-owns it, so
Yeah. Well, but my
What else can he do?
advertisers, men, if you're going to get caught with lipstick on your collar, let it be the I Am collection.
That's a
I think
good.
That's pretty good.
That's a good. Next question for you.
Yes.
We stumped the host.
That's a good one. That was a good one. The bio indicated that 220 began as an events company. We talked about that expanded to include publishing, marketing, and music distribution. That was interesting. Was that a natural progression, or did something happen that made you decide to get in all those markets?
It was a natural progression, kind of. I loved art at first, and I just really I started out because, like I said, my stepfather was an artist or is an artist. He and my mother imported art from Africa, so we have tons of.
Did they
African
travel
art.
back and forth?
They traveled to Senegal and Ghana many times,
Ghana,
and
okay.
bought their work literally off the street from the artists that were creating work. So it was amazing, just kind of seeing some of the work. I was actually in our storage facility. I have a ton of artwork still that they brought back. So that's how it started. So I was supporting their business and hosting shows here in Chicago. I had just moved here maybe a couple of years in Chicago. I had a good friend who lived at the 1130 building on Michigan Avenue. She had a party room. She's like, bring it here. Let's do it. So we would do like 2 or 3 shows a year.
Oh, nice.
So I was doing that. And, I love artists. They're wonderful people, creative,
yes.
little flighty at times.
they're a little
I would,
eccentric
So trying to rep them was an interesting proposition. But I thought, now I work with authors and actresses and other people. So no offense to all of you. Y'all all special in your own way. They're all special. I love them all.
What
To
I
all my
get.
authors, I'm not
What I
talking about
get.
any of you personally, directly at least. You're all special. I love you all and support you all. Just for the record, we put that out there. No, so I had grown a little tired of working with artists, and I wanted to do something different.
Mhm.
The events was natural because I was throwing the art events, but I had a friend who wrote a book. Her name's Carla Curtis, still a great friend of mine. We worked together at Discover, and she had written a book on single parenting. And she had asked me, she was like, hey, I know you throw these art events and stuff, and I really like some help promoting my book. So I'm like, books. I read, but I don't really know anything about books. So I'm like, I don't know if that sounds kind of boring. It's so funny because I think about what I said those days, and now I'm a publisher. So I have to take all that back. You be careful what you talk about because you actually get involved in it in some way, shape, or form. So we started doing an event called Authors and Artists. So I took the best of what I knew, the art, and combined it with book signings. So it was a combination event. So we did those for like 5 years where we featured artists. We had Omar Tyree come in and speak. Janice Kearney, who worked in the Clinton administration, she was actually Bill Clinton's diarist. And she came in and spoke at Authors and Artists one year as well. Wow. So it was a great combination event. We had a huge event at Little Black Pearl, 47th. I think we drew like 400 or 500 people.
Wow.
So yeah, it was amazing. Authors and Artists was great. So we did that for like 5 years. And that was great for me because other authors started coming to me and saying, hey, can you promote my book? Can you do things around my book? So we were doing events around authors, and we started doing, book signings, things like that. And then I started looking at some of the books I was representing, and there were so many errors, and they had some stuff that were not just grammatical errors. We were talking about stuff that could get you sued for plagiarism.
Oh dear.
Or for slander, actually, more slander than plagiarism.
Okay.
So there were some inaccurate historical references. There was a reference, and I'll never forget this, and this is what convinced me that I needed to either own the process or not do it. There was a reference about a crime that was committed by a certain public figure, and it had it committed against the wrong person.
Oh dear.
And this was all public knowledge. I'm not even going to call the name of the famous person or anything, but they had the crime and who he committed it against wrong. And I pointed it out in the book, and she was like, nobody's going to notice that.
Yes, they are.
Yes,
You
they will.
kidding?
And I'm like, okay, I'm
They
not
will.
working with you anymore, and I
No.
don't want to do this anymore. So I wanted to own the process. So as I was transitioning out of doing events for just random authors, Yanni Brown she would do this event called Kiss and Makeup. We met. She'd do her Michigan Avenue loft. She'd have these relationship chats and everything. And we were talking. We
That's
were having
cute.
lunch one day. She's like, I need something to raise my profile. And I'm like, you should write a book. I was like, it would help elevate you. I think you have a lot of great information that you give people, but if somebody's not at your loft on Michigan Avenue, they're not going to get it. So we need people that won't ever come to Chicago and really know you to be able to have access to this information. So that's kind of where the idea came from. So fast forward. Hey, I'm thinking about starting a publishing company. I would love to publish your book first.
Wow.
And that's where it started.
And you take total control when you do your publishing, right?
Yeah, we do end to
Okay.
end.
Okay.
So editing, design, and we work with you if you're an author and you have a designer and stuff, but we do editing, design, production, distribution, all of that. And then we kind of took the marketing that we knew and we built events around it over the last 9 years. So Books and Bottles was a very popular event because it mixed wine tasting and book signing. So
And that was my next question. What a great segue.
Yeah, so wine. Yes. How did I get into wine?
How'd you get into wine crawl? What?
Oh.
And tell the audience what that is.
So you want the PG version of that? How did I get into wine? I guess I'll do PG.
Okay, do
It's a
PG.
family show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is probably. No, I'm joking. It's a great story behind that, and it's a good one. I was dating somebody. Every good idea begins with a woman. I like to always say.
I'm glad you acknowledge that.
Yes. Thank you.
I know every woman just like sat up straight, like that's right, that's right. Tell them.
Yes.
So I was dating somebody, and she really got me into wine. I wasn't a wine drinker, to be honest, and I was doing fundraisers. So at the same time, doing books and stuff like that, I was always the kind part. I was always doing giving back. I was trying to do fundraisers for different charities. We would do some for like a lot of small charities. A good friend of mine who actually became godfather to her children. She had a group called Youth at the Crossroads. Her name's Lakeisha Hamilton, and I think she's revived that now. But that's how we met. So we were doing fundraisers for her. She would take high school students, and we would I remember I interviewed them for jobs and just kind of grading them on how they did and how they presented themselves, things like that. She did a lot of things to just kind of help the youth in the inner city and just kind of help them move forward. And a lot of those kids that were in that program are doing wonderful now, 10, 15 years later. But that's how we met. I would do fundraisers for her. I would do wine fundraisers. We did a collection event for Connections for Abused Women and Their Children. And we collected over 300 items for their wish list. Wow. Which is so amazing because that's such a great charity because they provide safe houses for women and their families in abusive situations. So in those safe houses, they need all things like toiletries, diapers, everything. So basically your admission was bringing something of value for the wish list. And we ended up, they couldn't even take it all with them. They had to get a van and bring all the stuff we had collected for them. So that's what I was doing with the wine. So fast forward to another relationship, another woman.
Always a woman.
But she was really into wine. And I still give her credit to this day. Like she heard this, she'd probably laugh and probably send me a bill for that consulting fee or something.
There you go.
But we were in Napa on a vacation, and I saw these wine tours around Napa with limos and luxury buses.
Nice.
I'm like, okay, I have a really good list of people who like wine. So I have an audience that's raised their hand. Chicago's a great city for wine bars and restaurants, and it's just a great foodie city. So it's great for that kind of thing. I'm like, I'm going to test this out. I'm going to do an event that's an upscale beer crawl. So it's not your father's beer crawl. We're going to call it a wine crawl. So we're going to go to wine bars and do tastings. We're going to rent a luxury bus, though, and do it. So it's like, you show up at one place and we take you around and it's an experience versus we're just going to crawl. Crawl part was just kind of a catchy title. Yeah. But it was more of an experience versus just going and drinking. And that's where Wine Crawl started. So that was 6 years ago. Yeah, 6 years ago.
It just started then.
It sold out. Yeah, we sold out the first 4 or 5 we did.
How do you get the people there? How do you get people to attend your event so well?
I built a list over the years.
Okay.
For a while, I made it a point every day to tell 3 people about my business. That was literally my goal.
3 people.
I did that I did that every day for
3 new
like
people,
7
right?
or 8 years. Yeah,
Oh,
3 new
nice.
people.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I ended up with like 2 Facebook pages and 9,000
Yes,
friends.
yeah.
That
yeah.
might be why.
Yeah, you can't be his friend anymore. It's
But
full enough.
oh, that's right. But I mean, if you think about it, I did it on early platform. So it went from me inviting people from my AOL. Yes, I'm old and I have an AOL address, people. But inviting all my friends on my AOL list to the art shows, to going to MySpace. Everybody remembers MySpace, which I loved MySpace actually, because it was a great platform.
Really?
Yeah, MySpace was great because you could put your own jukebox on there for music.
Yes.
You know, you had a few
Yeah, I
pictures,
see
but I
that,
wasn't
yeah.
like that into pictures, so it didn't matter that much. I thought I took terrible pictures, so I didn't care about that. It was more about the music. So I met so many great music artists and great friends that are like MySpace friends. I still remember that are Facebook friends now. So I leveraged every free platform I could. It's
That's
very
good.
important to leverage the free platforms. I even talk about that in this book, that there's tons of free opportunities out there where you can really put your product out and talk to people. So that's how I accumulate the list. But the 3 people a day thing, I did that. I think I did that for almost a decade.
Oh, wow.
Literally. So I built a list from scratch, just telling people about the business in some way, shape, or form.
And getting their information.
Yeah. Or I already had their information
Okay.
from like connecting with them on those platforms.
Mhm.
So that's how I built the list. So
That's
from there, I was able to, then I gathered more names from all the events I had done. So, I still have.
So every event you have like a sign-in sheet
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, I
Makes sense.
just literally cleaned out my authors and artists from like 2005 this morning when I was looking at it, because I had collected the names. Yeah, but I mean, that's important. Like that, those names are your gold,
Yeah.
because they've raised their hand and they've been to something too. So it's also, if you think about marketing, and I grew up in direct marketing where they were sending letters out. So
Oh,
if
yeah,
you
I
think
remember.
about your
Mhm.
response rate and you understand how low your response rate is and how valuable those people that have already said they're going to do something, it's harder to acquire new customers than it is to keep the ones you have. So my goal was taking the customers that I already had and creating events and experiences around what they liked. And Wine Crawl happened to be one of the more popular ones.
Of course.
So yeah, so we did that for the first couple of years in Chicago. And we expanded to Napa, I think by year 3. We would do a trip to Napa, which was a really cool
Nice.
2-day wine tour, limo-driven wine tour around Napa, which had been great. I launched in Atlanta 3 years ago,
Mhm.
and Dallas also the same year. Then I did Richmond this year, and I actually did one in Indianapolis a few years back as well.
Was that more received in Indianapolis?
It was smaller.
Okay.
It was smaller. Indianapolis is a tougher market for it. And I think if I had time to develop it,
Yeah, you
I would
yeah.
have. But, here I am selling out in Chicago.
Yeah.
So it's like Indianapolis, Chicago,
Yeah.
where do I want to go? And where do you want to spend your time? And when it's mainly you, like I had a great team supporting me on the ground, but I was really doing kind of the strategic and putting the money up and investing the time in it as well, which sometimes is as valuable as money, because then you really have to measure what you can do and what you can give your energy to. So that's a big part of trying to grow a business too. You start to really analyze it. And I've gotten so much better at it now since I have like 75 different businesses. Thank you, Keisha. But it really is, you start to look at, okay, where's the time invested? Where's the profit coming from? How difficult is it to get from A to B with this business versus the other? Became a big evaluation. And I did the same thing with publishing and looking at that. So that's why we started a private label publishing division as well, where if you're a self-published author and you want to come in and you want to keep all the money, I'm all for that. That's fine. We will charge you for the service. You walk away with a professionally done product that is distributed and available wherever books are sold. So, but back to Wine Crawl. So that's what happened with Wine Crawl. Got really popular around 2016. We had 3 wine crawls during the summer here in Chicago that all went over 1 million responses on Facebook. They went totally viral on Facebook. I think Facebook changed their rule on me after that, because I was like getting all these, I had 1.2 million people coming to like that event page without paying them a dime. So all of a sudden you started getting like, limited, who is this? Yeah, who you think you are? Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, so it got really popular. So there was such a market for it. And over the last few years, I've had the pleasure of working with a number of African Americans in the wine industry as well.
You weren't working with them before, or they were just a small number?
I didn't know they existed before until I got to Atlanta.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And I mean, I worked with like Krishan Lampley and Love Corkscrew there. And so I knew that, and I knew that world. But outside of that, I was when I moved to Atlanta in 2016 for a little while, and then I got connected to some other people. I actually, Cuisine Noir magazine did an article on Wine Crawl, and then I worked with them on an event in Atlanta called the Wine Down, which we did for a couple of years, which was tons of fun. And I met other people in the industry there. Met a lady named Benita Johnson, who's an amazing lady. She owns the Vine Wine Club, which is a wine club, an online wine club. She's based in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
And each year she does an event called the Exclusive Blacklist, which features the who's who in African American wines. We got mentioned in Wine Enthusiast that year as well. So it was just a really good year of just growth, which was great. But there was a lot of stuff going on with me around that time. So my mom had passed away in 2016. So I'm like dealing with that. And I have a growing business here and a life that's like going this way. So I had to think of, thinking about that.
How'd you keep it balanced? So?
I threw myself into my work. So I don't know if it was balanced, but it helped me. It got me through. It got me through. There was so much transition in 2016. It was such an interesting year. And I'm like there are ripple effects that I'm still feeling now.
It's
from
only
those
been a
3
couple
years
years
ago. Yeah, it's been 3 years. Yeah. So just from business life and everything just kind of shifted that year. Moved to Atlanta, took a job there
in
for a little while.
2016.
In 2016. Yeah. But going to Atlanta was good for me for a couple of reasons. Staying in Chicago, I never would have slowed down, to be quite honest, because I always had something to do in Chicago. I had friends here, great friends. There were great events all the time. Chicago is a 7-day-a-week city. Atlanta's more like a 3-4 day a week city.
Really?
Sorry, Atlanta.
Really?
Yeah, sorry. I've argued with friends about Atlanta. I love Atlanta. Don't get me wrong. I have some great friends there. I met some lifelong friends there, and I've got friends that I grew up with in Memphis that have moved there.
Now, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Memphis. I was born and raised in the Memphis, Tennessee area.
So you went from Memphis to
Louisville, where I worked for
Kentucky?
GE. For 2 years, and then I moved to Chicago.
And then Atlanta.
And then Atlanta, and back here now.
Okay.
Just can't leave Chicago. Chicago's like that girlfriend you just can't leave.
Can't get rid of.
You keep thinking about her. You hear songs that remind you of her. That's Chicago for me sometimes. You want to break up with her so bad, but you can't, like, dang.
You don't want to leave Chicago, do you?
In the winter, I do.
Oh, who doesn't?
Yeah. In the winter, in like about 60 days, I want to be out of here. And you probably
be in Atlanta then.
I'll probably be in Atlanta, yes. I'll probably be spending lots of time in Atlanta. Atlanta keeps pulling me back for one reason or another.
Well, between the two, I see that.
Yeah. Like we met, I was in Atlanta when we met through a mutual friend.
Are you from Atlanta?
No.
Okay, where are you from?
Born and raised west side of Chicago.
Yes. Yes, west side. I knew there was something about her. Anyway.
Yes.
So anyway,
I know.
So we met. She was like, "Oh, I'm moving to Atlanta," and June Hollingsworth told me to reach out to you, and that's literally how we met. So we didn't meet for like a year, almost a year and a half before. Yeah,
I was trying to convince him to be my manager for a year and a half over the phone.
Creatives. I was like, I don't want another creative. I don't want to deal with another creative person.
But his connections in Atlanta, he opened up a lot of doors for me in Atlanta, and he had never seen me. Yeah. We had never met. He took the word of our mutual friend, June, and he helped me. He was like, whatever you need.
Yeah. But she's a dear friend. She truly is. Whatever June asked me to do, I would do, honestly. And
so he helped me without even knowing me. What a blessing.
Wow. I guess that kindness is coming through again.
That's the kindness. Yes, he has a heart of gold. He really does.
No, I don't. I'm mean and evil. No. Please.
No.
Okay, nobody believes that. I really tried.
We're going to take a quick break because I know he's probably tired of talking.
These lights are hot too.
I know. I tell you, the lights are like. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
People see how bald I really am.
You know what? Whatever.
I'm tripping out over you, baby, over you, girl, yeah. I'm tripping out over you, baby, over you, girl, yeah. Each day I'm not with you is It's like a day without sunshine. I'm hung up on you, babe. You become a part of me. You're not like other girls, or is it my imagination? This pounding in my heart is all because of you. You got me tripping out over you, mama. Oh, tripping out over you. Yeah. Tripping out over you, girl. Yeah. Oh, now let me be your slave. Oh, I've learned to worship you. I'll do anything you say, anything you want me to. Ooh, to me, you're my queen, and I'm your knight in shining armor, standing guard over our love, the love you give to me. You got me tripping out over you, baby. Tripping out.
Sounds like you.
Tripping
For those of you
out
who are
over
listening to the
you.
Voices of Change on Intellectual Radio, and today I have the honor of interviewing Glenn Murphy. Oh my God, Glenn Murray, and also Keisha Rose.
We're gonna be taking
Hello.
No, and also Keisha Rose. But by doing that, I had to say it like 3 times. Glenn Murray. Anyway, we were talking earlier about the wine crawl. There was something that he forgot to mention. He did mention earlier, though, behind every big decision, there was a woman that kind of drove it. Who was the driver of it?
Drive it, yes.
That helps to
Catalyst,
drive
like a
it.
tipping point.
A catalyst. I like
Let's
that.
not give them too much credit, because I don't want them coming back asking me for a commission. Okay. Legally.
Okay.
Yeah, this is public, so I can't be.
Because they can
My attorney
come back.
advised me not to.
Oh dear. Oh,
Under the
please. We haven't talked
advisement
about attorneys today.
under the advisement of my attorney,
Okay.
I can only say it was a good idea.
Okay, so tell us about the good idea that the woman gave you for the wine crawl, and tell us who gave you that great idea.
Gave you that?
Who? I mean, we're that that is so. I just can't. You do it in all these cities. It just seems like it would be a natural progression, and that you didn't think about it. But I'm glad you had someone near you, next to you. Anyway, go on.
Good setup. Are y'all working together?
I know.
I've never met her.
She pay you beforehand? What, she send you some
She
extra
wears
lip
my
gloss?
lip gloss.
Yeah.
lip gloss.
Yeah,
She
you're a
wears my lip
spokesmodel.
gloss.
That's right. I am.
You're
in
up
between. Okay.
You
I'm
are
caught-
fun.
I'm
Which
caught
is
in between.
available right now, you guys,
And
on
where
the I Am.
where can we get it?
I am by
Where can we get it?
KR.com.
I Am by KR.com.
I am by
That was
KR.
my idea.
And that was his idea.
Oh,
Since we're talking about who gets credit for ideas around
So,
here. Anyway.
well, men do think of things sometimes. Go ahead.
Ooh,
No, I
sometimes.
gave you a plug.
You gave me a crumb.
that was
That
his
a lot of
idea.
crumb.
Yes.
In woman, I gave you a plug. I speak woman. What she really means is I gave you a little crumb. Be happy with that and keep going.
No.
That's what that meant.
No. Get back to wine.
Okay,
crawl.
wine crawl.
Wine crawl.
So we've done 4 or 5 cities. We've experimented with walking crawls. We've experimented with a guilty pleasures crawl, which was a lot of
What was
fun.
that about?
So a guilty
I'm just
pleasures
curious.
crawl. The way we advertise it is wine, cigars, and blindfolds.
Oh,
Yes.
But I can explain. It was very well PG-13 maybe.
We're bringing
but,
that back.
So it was a combination of, we had a cocktail making class was the first stop with a company called Drinks on Me Catering. Jay Harris has a great business that he does remote bartending.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a spot at the time, and we went there, and he had a great Ariel Neal, who is a mixologist, very talented. She actually has a business now called Leah Renault's Cocktails, but she was the mixologist, so she taught like 3 cocktails that we made.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, we went to Kilwin's Chocolates, owned by Janet Jackson in Hyde Park, and did a chocolate tasting. And Janet was great. She came out, talked to people about her business, and she has 2 Kilwins now. She owns the Kilwins on Michigan Avenue and the one in Hyde Park. So I've worked with her for a number of years. Great lady. And so we did chocolate tasting there. Then we came back to a restaurant called Chow in the West Loop. It's a very small little Italian eatery, great food. We had Yanni there doing her blindfolded tasting. She does a blindfolded couples tasting that's quite amazing and quite interesting. You'll have to have her on the show.
It's going to be on the show. Tune in.
So so it's pretty interesting. So we had her do that to close out. So it's, it's partners. So I blindfold you and then I feed you certain fruits that relate to certain things. I'm too young to mention. My good Christian upbringing won't let me talk about it too much. So let's just say it's interesting.
I got it.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the Guilty Pleasures crawl.
Oh, okay.
So and we also had cigars from Alordum Cigars. They provided cigars for all the guests as well, flavored cigars.
Jackson.
Yeah, so it was just a great
And you're thinking about bringing that back?
Yeah, we're thinking about doing that again for maybe Valentine's.
Oh, that
Day
would be
or
nice.
something. But I'll have to talk to my franchisees, which leads to the other thing that we were doing. So, we had these great events. So there was the traditional wine crawl. There's a walking crawl that we experimented with in Atlanta and in Richmond that went really well. And then the Guilty Pleasures crawl. And then we do something of an offshoot called the Author Dinner, where Nicole actually participated in that. So each author basically picked a meal or picked a dish, and we had a chef prepare it. So the authors came out, talked about their book and why they chose that dish. And at the end, they had a book signing. So we did a 4 or 5 course meal with the authors, 5 different authors talking about their books and why they choose, it may be a dish mentioned in their books. So when we used the fiction authors mainly. So they would talk about meals in their book, like Carlo Kennedy, who is Italian and Irish in heritage. So dinner was a big part of his books, his time signature books. He has 2 books called Time Signature 1 and 2. And the family gathered around dinner. So he picked, an Italian dish. So it was very, very,
nice.
very interesting concept. So those are some of the things that grew from that. So I loved Wine Crawl because I could see beyond just let's go around and do tastings. What are all the other things we can build around it? So it's all about marketing and how you cross promote. How do I cross promote all the businesses that I had? So with the publishing company, this was a great way to introduce authors to a different audience as well. So there's all of that in the Wine Crawl franchise, but I didn't have time to do all of that. So I was actually 20, whatever year we're in, 2019. I had started off 2019 saying, okay, something has to go. Is it going to be publishing? Is it going to be Wine Crawl? Keisha was like, we should do all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm not listening to you because you're trying to just make me work. And no, I'm not going to be your manager. Yeah. All of that was happening around January. And plus I had moved back here and it was cold, the polar vortex. I'm like, God hates me because the temperature on purpose when I moved back. I just knew it was I had done some evil sin. I wasn't sure what it was. So I had all that in my head, trying to figure out what do I want to do with my business and where do I want to go with my business. So Marcy Batiste, who I love dearly, she's one of my authors. She wrote Love Miscarriage, and she calls me up and she says, hey, I need to write a screenplay for this. Somebody wants to see this. So I was like, Keisha can write. Let me introduce you to her. And literally that's what we did. So for 2 months
did?
Yeah. And my goal is always to really connect people. I consider myself a connector. So I connect people and try to get out of the way. And they were like, oh no, you're not getting out of the way. You're helping us write.
You're going to write.
I'm like, I don't want to write. I'm not a writer. I'm a connector or something I said. Some excuse I gave to not really want to do it. I don't even remember my excuses now. I have so many for not actually pursuing my own creative goals. And I had to stop doing that. So that was one of the things I learned too. But we sat down and wrote a great screenplay. Basically, moral of the story is, Love Miscarriage is a great book. It's based on a true story from a period from Marcy's life. And it's just a great screenplay. I was very proud of what the 3 of us were able to accomplish. It was a very...
In a short time, too.
Yeah, in a short time. It was very emotional, though. I forgot how much I enjoyed writing and doing that, which also leads to, okay, what do you really want to do, Glenn? And that big question at the beginning of the year. And I discovered that, writing, which I knew writing was freeing. And I'd really learned that after my mother passed. I wrote a blog about being a caregiver for 2 years. And that was very therapeutic for me.
It was?
Yeah, it was.
To write about it?
Oh, yeah. It definitely was. It was the only way I was going to be able to tell the story. I can't talk. I can talk about it now because I wrote that blog.
Had you
3
not
years
written
ago.
it, you wouldn't be able to
I don't think I'd be able
articulate.
to articulate it like I am now. I did a show called The Backstory with Terry Johnson, and that was the whole topic. And I didn't know that, and we just kind of went into it, and I was able to talk through it for like an hour almost,
Really?
and just without stopping. There was no, I mean, of course, there's always emotion, but it wasn't so heavy until I couldn't get it out.
Like you almost want to break down.
Yeah, I didn't want to break down. I was
Yeah,
like,
you did great.
oh God, don't let me break down on this. Let me think about this. I never really thought about it like that, but that gave me power. So there's so much strength in being able to express yourself on paper. So Love Miscarriage helped me. I never told Marcy or Keisha that, but it really helped me to see the creative side of me that I had buried for so long, and really thought about that. So shortly after that, I released the book. You wrote it, Now Go Sell It, which is more of a guide. It's really short, 30, 40 pages, but it started from a PowerPoint that I wrote on a trip from LA. 4 hours, you have a lot of time on your hands on a plane. So I wrote a PowerPoint for my authors to say, okay, here are the things you need to think about doing at this point in your career, at this point in your book. If it just came out, if it's 30 days, 90 days, a year, here are the things you need to be thinking about. And I gave it to another friend of mine, Candace Ledbetter, who represents Greg Allen Williams, Uncle Mac on Greenleaf. And somebody I met in Atlanta again. And she was like, you should really put this in a book. And I was like, a book? It's a PowerPoint. She's like, no, it's a book. She's like, this is really helpful.
And it was a she again? No, I'm just trying to.
Yes, Candace is a woman.
Thank you.
She is a woman, yes.
Okay, thank you. And back to the franchise. Yeah, I'm waiting.
Yeah, but the writing really convinced me as I was talking to Keisha, because then we started, after Love Miscarriage, we looked at Jero's Productions. She released the I Am collection. So I'm like, okay, now I got a whole set of more businesses here. Keisha, thank you so much. June, thank you for introducing me to more work. Appreciate that.
More work, more money.
Yeah. So how do I now? So what do I do with the babies that I already have, though? Like here I'm having all these other children, but I got these kids over here. So we were talking about it, and I told Keisha, I'm like, I've expanded.
You and
another woman.
That would be me. Oh, okay. Thank you.
And I was like, I always thought about franchising, and she was like, just do it. You should just do it. And sometimes you need people.
Did you say I've always thought about franchising, or did Keisha say maybe you should franchise? I'm just wondering.
I don't
do you
remember how it went. Keisha, do you remember? We'll ask her.
I think I said something like, "You should franchise it. Don't give it up."
I think
we mutually agree. So I'm gonna give him 50-50.
Yeah, mutual.
Oh, I get 50-50 this time. I don't get the crumb.
But
the Janice gave.
No, I'm trying to just get the picture.
You're now a franchise.
Yeah, that is exciting.
So we have a group in Georgia who also wants to do crawls in New Orleans, which I've always wanted to do.
New Orleans would be nice. Yeah.
And Vegas, which I just have in my head. Vegas is a great, not necessarily like a one-night crawl. I actually did research in Vegas. Okay. It was truly research. They have a crawl where they rent a limo bus and they just give you alcohol, like literally in a red cup.
I can see that.
And they sit you down. And I had a date.
Oh, another. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm not gonna say it because you're saying I'm being. Go ahead.
Okay.
So she had been on the crawl before here, my crawl, and we were going on that one as an experiment, and like they didn't even have enough room for us. Like she literally had to sit in my lap because they didn't actually think about, okay, we've got a bus for 30 people, but we sold tickets to 42 people. So little stuff. It's like little event stuff that you have to think about. And it's those things that you notice when you're not doing the event, but you see everything going. Yeah. So going on that, I'm like, Vegas is great, but not for a crawl. Vegas is great for an experience. And I always say wine crawl is not an event. It's an experience.
Okay.
Because in Vegas, there's so many great restaurants. It's like the Super Bowl of restaurants, like all-star chefs. All of them have restaurants there. Gordon Ramsay, Giada, whatever her name is, Michael Mina, people like that. And so you should do experiences every night. So wine crawl in Vegas is more of a 3 or 4 night experience where you do a seated dinner.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
And then you have the day to go play, the weekend to go play. But each night you come together for a little while. And then they have the high roller, which is their Ferris wheel. And they have something called Happy Half Hour. So you can go on that. and it's like open bar for a half hour while you look at Vegas. So that's a great intro to
That's
it.
a good one.
That's
But I
nice.
didn't have time to do all that. So I was tired of being the wine guy, basically, because I was like being known for being the wine guy. And I was
Yeah.
like beyond that now because I'm a writer now. Let me tell it. I
Oh.
wrote a screenplay. You can tell me anything after I wrote a book, a screenplay.
Well, screenplays are
My
different than
head
writing
was
a book, so
big.
that's a
No.
big deal. That's
Yeah.
a big deal.
So, it's a wonder I let Marcy and Keisha talk to me after I wrote the screenplay, even though I was a co-writer and it was their idea for me to write. I just got the big head. I don't want to do this wine
You
crawl
may
stuff
still have it because I
anymore.
think you had to go sideways in the door. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, she didn't.
I know. The insults always start with a woman, too. Let's just
Oh,
remember.
That was just a little jokey joke.
Woman's just at the root of everything.
It was just a joke. That's all.
So that's where the franchise conversation came in.
Wow, that was
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
huge.
So this is
That's
it's
huge.
still very brand new. I mean, I literally sent out a message 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I've already gotten tremendous
Responses.
response.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have groups that are set up Dallas, Atlanta. That same Atlanta group's going to do New Orleans and Vegas.
Mhm.
We the Carolinas and Chicago. Of course,
Yes.
Chicago's our
Yeah.
our home base for that. But I'm excited about that because I
I'm
get to
happy for
actually
you.
and it actually allows me to be a little bit more creative because I'm not doing the execution part of it.
Right.
So we still retain the audience, we still retain a lot of the marketing and creative around it, so we can really help the franchisees to be successful with it. So it still keeps me involved, and I love the creative aspect of it. That was the big thing.
2
for me.
questions in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Do you also do marketing for other types of companies or businesses?
I have. I've
You
done
have.
marketing for some product companies. I've done marketing for film,
Okay.
some other things. Yes.
Also, tell me about your praise and worship document.
Praise and worship.
You know, I had to mention it. I didn't even get to have my stuff.
I know. Praise and worship is very near and dear to my heart. It's going to be dedicated to the memory of my mom. Because
Oh,
she played
nice.
piano from age 5 on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so one of her favorite films was a film called Say Amen Somebody, which was a documentary which featured like Thomas Dorsey.
Oh,
It was
wow.
came out in
The originator.
1980.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want this to kind of continue to tell that story. So I really want to go into different churches and feature some of the unsung heroes of the
Yes.
church, which is in the
That's
choir.
nice.
And if you think about it, if you ask any minister about that, the choir really sets the mood for delivering the word.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, so I really want to profile people in those choirs,
That's
singers, praise dancers, people like that, praise and worship team, praise teams, people like that. I want to go in and really talk about that and highlight them, and it's just really make it a feel-good experience. So that's really what I want praise and worship to be. We've actually written kind of the synopsis for it. We've gotten the scripting for it. We're gonna starting at the end of the year, we're gonna start doing some scouting of churches that we want to use.
Yeah.
I know
Good
you
for
mentioned your
you.
So
church.
we're
I
going
would
to try to
love
have it completed by
We would-
2020.
Good.
Yeah, it's a goal right now. It's a
Wow.
goal. 2020.
You guys are so busy. Last question. I know Wanda's going to be like, Jan, music distribution.
Oh gosh,
You know, I had to ask about
music
that.
is
And I
like
still
my
didn't get
first love. So I have such a history with
All
music
types
that
of
you wouldn't
music.
believe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I helped an artist out of Chicago, Nina Ray, produce her first CD maybe about 4 or 5 years ago called
Okay.
Born to Love. I really enjoyed that. So I'm getting back into that, like being a music supervisor on our projects.
Okay.
For me, Karma, for one of the episodes, I think I got a music supervisor credit for that.
You do.
Yeah, so I want to do more of that. I want to recruit more independent artists, help them to distribute their work, and just kind
I
of
know.
really be a music consultant for them or a market consultant for their music. Because,
Okay.
creatives, like I make the joke about creatives, but
I know.
they're all about focused on the
Yeah.
work, the art, the visual, the sound, and how it's produced. And they don't really think about the business behind it. So
Mhm.
I try to have a balance of those two things.
And if you ever have any artists that want to do anything live, they're welcome to come on here if
Oh,
you give
great.
a recommendation for them.
Yes,
Great.
and we will be looking for more
Because we
artists.
have a
definitely
studio.
are.
Yes.
I mean, we
Yeah.
have a
Productions.
stand.
We do.
So
So
yes.
We noticed that.
I want to thank you guys so much for coming before
Thank
Wanda chops my
you.
head off.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Glenn Murray.
Thank
Keisha
you for
Rose.
having
Thank you
me.
so
Hey,
much.
Rose, I like that.
Thank you.
I like that. It's been a pleasure. I'd love to have you back. And when
I'd
you
love
come
to
back,
be
you can
back.
bring gifts again.
We will. We will bring
We will
new
bring
lip
you-
gloss
That's
for
terrible.
you.
That's
We'll bring,
terrible.
yes,
I
we'll
won't-
bring you. I can
I'm
only come
joking,
back.
I'm joking.
She said I could only come back
We
if I
do
bring
have a
gifts.
new one though for you. I
Really?
didn't bring it, but
Yep.
we have I Am Joy, also in dedication
I Am
of his
Joy.
mom, Joy.
I like that. I am
Yes.
joy.
So I
Yeah.
Am Joy is our latest dedicated to his mom.
Okay.
So yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is the next person here?
I can feel your fingers. That's what I was saying.
I know I talk with my hands. Well,
Hello.